Hello guys, welcome back to Car Obsession and welcome to the second and final part of my review of the brand new Citroen Berlingo. If you haven't seen the first part, that was all about the interior and the practicality, whereas this part is all about driving experience, equipment and safety. Enjoy! MPVs. In the 90s and the early noughties, these were a popular mode of transport for family life as they offered space, practicality and, depending on the model, 7 seats. However, ever since the Nissan Qashqai hit the market, buyers have been flocking towards SUVs and not MPVs. So that begs the question, are cars like the new Citroen Berlingo a bit of a motoring has-been? Let's hit the road. What kind of driving experience does the new Citroen Berlingo offer? Well, have you ever driven a van? If you have, this will feel rather familiar. Now, for what it's worth, the Berlingo can be had as a light commercial vehicle, i.e. a van, so I suppose this should come as a little surprise. Because this feels rather van-like, this means you get a high, rather upright driving position. It feels like I'm sat in a chair as opposed to a driver's seat, and I get a gear lever that protrudes out of the dashboard. Speaking of the gearbox, I have a 6-speed manual. Now you can have an 8-speed automatic, but not for this engine. Now I will speak about the engines in more depth in a few moments, but yes, back to the gearbox. Now, as I've mentioned, I do have the 6-speed manual, and like other PSA group cars I've driven, it is quite notchy. It's not the greatest gearbox to use, and the gear knob is square, so it doesn't really fall into the hand very well. Let's face it, who wants a square knob? I don't. Now, in regard to the engines, so you can either have a 1.2 litre 3-cylinder turbocharged petrol, which offers either 108 horsepower, which is what I've got, or you can have 131 horsepower, although that unit is not available just yet. If you prefer a diesel, you can have a 1.5 litre turbocharged unit, 4 cylinders, which offers either 76, 102 or 131 horsepower. Now the engine I have is a 1.2 litre 3-cylinder turbocharged petrol. It is the PureTech 110 because it offers exactly 108 horsepower. Yeah, I know, it's just marketing mumbo jumbo. Along with that, I have 205 Newton meters of torque. This power is mated to the front wheels, but as an option, I do have the grip control. Therefore, I've got different driving modes such as mud, snow and sand. As well as that, I get hill descent, and I also get different tyres for better grip in all conditions. Now, I won't lie, this does seem a little bit overkill in this car, but it may be of use to some buyers. Anyway, back onto the engine. So, in regard to economy, because I'm sure you're more concerned about that as opposed to performance, on a combined run, this engine will offer 42.4 mpg. In my experience, I've been getting high 40s, but I must admit, my commute to work is on faster roads, so I don't really do much town driving. In regard to emissions, this has 125 grams per kilometre of CO2, meaning for the first year of VED, you'll be required to pay £170. If you fancy more economy from your Berlingo, then you can take a look at either the 76 horsepower diesel or the 102 horsepower diesel, because they both offer 51.6 mpg on a combined run. But when it comes to CO2 emissions, the less powerful unit has 108 grams per kilometre, whereas the 102 horsepower unit has got 113 grams per kilometre. Now, there's a good chance you're not very interested in performance if you're looking at a Citroen Berlingo, but in case you want to know how fast this will get to 62 miles per hour, it will do it in 11.5 seconds, and the top speed is 109 miles per hour. This engine works pretty well, it makes decent progress. It does need a little bit of work to get it going, so once you get it past 3,000 revs, that's when it really starts to pick up. Actually, in fact, I'd say more like 2,500 revs, and it works pretty well. However, I think that if this car were fully laden with passengers and luggage, this engine may struggle a little bit. So if you want more pulling power, I would urge you to have a look at the PureTech 130, or you can have a look at the 102 horsepower or the 131 horsepower diesel. In regard to torque figures, the PureTech 130 engine, that has 230 Newton meters of it. The 102 horsepower diesel has got 254 Newton meters, and the more powerful diesel, the 131 horsepower unit, that has 300 Newton meters. Now, if you prefer your torque in pound-feet, I will drop in a little subtitle to keep you guys happy. Now, this is a Citroen after all, so I think it's about time I speak about the comfort and the ride. Unfortunately, the Berlingo doesn't get the progressive hydraulic cushions, which is a little bit disappointing. However, the ride is still agreeable, it soaks up the bumps pretty well. Is it the most comfortable Citroen I've ever driven? No, but given the fact that Citroen has got such high standards of comfort, this is still very agreeable indeed, so I haven't got any strong complaints. However, what I will say is I would want the seats to be a bit more supportive. Now, they are comfortable enough. In fact, I drove almost 130 miles on the motorway yesterday, and I was quite fearful that my back would be quite achy because, yes, there's not a lot of support happening here, but it was just fine. Although, when you're going through the corners, now, I know this isn't made for handling, don't get me wrong guys, but you do move about a fair bit, and my front passenger, she pretty much fell out of the car because she was flopping about like a fish out of water. So yeah, I would want the seats to offer a bit more support, but they are comfortable. Although it would be nice to have the advanced comfort seats, which have got the extra foam and the extra sponginess. The Berlingo lineup is pretty simple, as there are just two trim levels, Field and Flair. Now, I would argue the Field specification is probably best avoided because you do lose out on some of the features which I think make the Berlingo an attractive family car. Now, for example, the Field specification loses out on the individual 3 seats in the rear, nor do you get the magic seat function. You also don't get the fold-out tables, and you don't get the folding front passenger seat either. Now, you may think, well, what does it offer? Well, it offers 16-inch steel wheels, manual air conditioning, 8-inch touchscreen with DAB radio and Bluetooth, safety pack, air bump panels, driver attention alert, 6 airbags, autonomous emergency braking, front electric windows, cruise control, speed limiter, and that's your lot. It's also worth mentioning the Field specification gives you limited adjustment for the driver's seat as well. So yes, I would argue the Flair is the more attractive package. Speaking of which, the Flair offers 16-inch alloy wheels, LED daytime running lights, black roof bars, rear electric windows, navigation, smartphone connectivity, better adjustment for the driver's seat, the 3 individual rear seats, the fold-out tables, the magic seat function, electric parking brake, rear parking sensors, and you also get the Citroen emergency system, which has the SOS button. Now, in regards to prices, if you go for the Field specification, you have a starting price of £19,650 if you go for the 5-seater and £21,530 if you go for the 7-seater. But if you happen to go for the Flair, the starting price for that is £21,940 if you go for the 5-seater and £23,600 if you go for the 7-seater. The car you see here is a bit more though, because I have had a few optional extras added. So this car is £24,335. The options include the Cumulus grey paintwork, that's £545. I also have the grip control, which gives me different driving modes, hill descent, and the all-weather tyres, that is £650. The Modutop roof, that is £750. Keyless entry and start, which is £250. And I have the driver assist pack, which gives me adaptive cruise control, that is £200. So once again, it's time for Ask Aaron, the segment where you guys get to ask me questions about whichever car I am testing. Now, I must admit, I didn't get many questions for the Berlingo, but on the plus side, this should be rather short and snappy. So, here goes. I'd like to know about that famous Citroen suspension system. Well, sadly, the Citroen Berlingo doesn't get the progressive hydraulic cushions, so this car isn't quite as comfortable as other Citroens I've had, but it's still pretty agreeable. I've got no massive complaints, so hopefully the facelifted Berlingo will get the progressive hydraulic cushions, but this car doesn't have it. Next question, does it feel huge on the road? It does, but not quite as huge as you may expect. Now, obviously this car is quite van-like, so it does feel rather substantial on the road, but at the same time, it doesn't feel like I'm driving a big tank. So it does feel rather huge, but not too huge, if that makes sense. And the last question, do you know when the petrol E88 automatic version is due to be launched? That's the PureTech 130 engine. I don't have an exact date, nor do I have an exact month, but Citroen has stated that that engine will be available in the second half of this year, so it should be anytime soon. Now, I have contacted Citroen to get a more definitive date, but I'm still waiting back. Anyway, that's Ask Erin, done and dusted. That was a short and sweet, like a Smurf dipped in sugar. Marvellous. Now, I will speak about the handling. I won't touch upon it for long because I think it's quite unfair to judge this car on its handling, because let's face it, it's a big boxy MPV and handling isn't its priority whatsoever. Expecting this to be any good in the corners would be like expecting a darts player to be any good at the 100 metres. But I will just touch upon it. Now, the handling is quite predictable, it's quite wallowy, there is a fair amount of body roll to contend with, and when you go through a corner, you just want that extra bit of bolstering on the seats. It is a little bit frustrating. The steering is nice and light when you're going about town, but it does weight up when you do reach higher speeds. And for the most part, the steering's okay. It's nothing really amazing, but I think for the casual buyer, it will be just fine. Now, I'm sure what a lot of you want to know is how easy is this car to drive on a day-to-day basis? Well, it is very easy, in fact. Thanks to the large windows, the visibility is fantastic. It's very easy to see out of, but in case you do have a bit of trouble parking, you do have rear parking sensors, which is quite handy. The pedals are nicely weighted, they're nicely spaced out, they're easy to operate, so I've got no complaints there. The gear change, it may be notchy, but it's nice and light. You can operate it with ease. Getting comfortable is pretty easy as well. So I can see no reason why you'd have any trouble driving this car. But of course, this is designed to be a family car. It should be easy to drive. It should be practical and accessible. Refinement is probably another area that you are concerned about. Well, refinement for the Berlingo is pretty good. There is a little bit of road noise coming into the cabin, but I wouldn't say it's overly intrusive. Wind noise is pretty well controlled considering the size and bulk of this car. Yes, you do get a bit of wind noise from the chunky wing mirrors and obviously the car's chunky size. The engine, even when you need to work it hard, isn't overly shouty or boomy, and when you're cruising, it fades away into the background quite nicely. So the engine is pretty refined as well. And overall, I'd say the Berlingo, what it is pretty refined. See, even when you rev the engine hard, it's not very shouty at all. It does make a kind of a wheezy noise as you get to the red line, which I don't much care for, but I wouldn't say it's particularly annoying. Time to talk about safety. This will of course be a very important area for buyers as this will be a family car. So how does the Berlingo do? It wasn't able to get the full 5 stars from Euro NCAP, but it did score a solid 4 stars thanks to standard safety features such as 6 airbags, autonomous emergency braking, lane keep assist, hill hold assist, speed limiter and speed sign recognition. So, time to sum up. Why should you buy the new Citroen Berlingo? Well, it's very spacious, it's very practical, it's versatile, it's comfortable, it's decent value, it offers a decent amount of kit, and the safety levels are also pretty good as well. Why shouldn't you buy this car? Well, in all honesty, it's quite difficult to think of any strong reasons. Yes, the styling isn't the most enticing, but I think Citroen has done a decent enough job with the big boxy frame. The driving sensation is quite van-like, which may not be to some buyers' tastes, and for me personally, I would want the seats to be a little bit better, particularly by Citroen's high standards. So, to go back to my original question, is the new Citroen Berlingo a motoring has-been? No, it isn't. Now don't get me wrong, it's not quite as relevant as it used to be, but for a device to ferry your family around and your luggage at the same time in comfort, I really don't think the Berlingo can be beaten when it comes to space. This certainly offers more practicality, space and versatility than your average SUV. The Berlingo, I think it will fit family life like a glove. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you have enjoyed it. If so, be sure to like, subscribe and to ring my bell so you get notified every time I make a video. But until the next time guys, be sure to keep up the car obsession.